All right, we're good.
How are you? Good. I got out of my
Thank you.
was getting here, got out of the car, opened the car. And
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing today? Excellent. You're good? You sound like a minute. I'm always off somewhere, buddy. You have no idea. So, all right. So this weekend, I was going through material and just looking at some different things of what I wanted to share with you all today. Oh, this is probably here for a reason. A little bit. And I came across a session from last summer. So this was last, I don't know, the date's probably on here somewhere. But last summer I had gone up to Omaha, Nebraska to watch my son play ball. So he was in a league up there, and I had taken my mom with me. We had gone up there to celebrate his birthday, so it was somewhere around July 16th. And so we flew out there. We got like a little, one of those little hotels that has like a 2-bedroom suite, whatever, and we lived there for like a week. And I did group coaching from there. I streamed it. And so what I did is I had Devin, and this is Christian, and this is Richie. One of the other guys comes in a little bit later. But these are the number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 batters on the team. And this guy here, Christian, super talented kid. He's in, they all are at Hawaii Pacific University is where the other 3 boys are from. And just a really super talented kid that there was a lot of rumor that he should have been drafted, and he wasn't drafted. And Devin will talk about it here in a little bit. So today is going to be more of you hearing these guys talk, and I'm hoping, John, that the audio will work okay. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook Live, when we start to play this, if you're struggling with audio, let us know. I will also post this on our page. So if for some reason when the video gets going or there are parts of it that you all want to hear. And then in Lexington, this will go back and forth to the group that was in Lexington watching coaching. I had a gentleman there that had worked for the Yankees organization in the room in Lexington. And so we were really just talking a lot about comparing where you are in your career to where other people are in their careers, and how far your talent gets you, and then how far some other things get you. So what I'm going to do is turn these out, and then if at any time you all have a question, you want me to pause it, feel free to raise your hand and we will do that. But this was just, I sat and watched the whole thing and I was like, I've got to share this with these people. It was an amazing session that I did out of a hotel room in Omaha. It's like it just ended up being really, really good.
So my goal coming in was basically kind of get a little bit more.
Let's see where, I don't know how to get it all the way to the beginning.
Coming in, just kind of practicing tactics and just working on, and also kind of just getting stats going as well. I'm working on just pitch selection, so not just going up there like hacking. I would say I get a decent amount of walks, but just finding like my zone and making sure I'm honed in just with myself at the plate. So that's probably at the plate was my main goal, just to square everything up and just to also get a bit better behind the plate, just get that general feel.
So what plan did you put in place? Like Richie said, meal planning. Richie had a number, right? You knew what number of where you were in your weight, you knew what number you needed to get to, and you put that action plan in place. And so what was your plan? What did you put in place to support that goal?
Okay, so for instance, my school, we have a bunch of different defenses and a bunch of different pitch sequences. So I would, so every day, usually I practice our different pitch sequences because I came in half semester and it was kind of tough picking up on all the stuff. Usually a lot of guys, especially a catcher coming into a new program, they change you to a different position because it's so hard to pick up on all the stuff that you have to learn throughout the fall and everything. So I would have to practice. I would literally practice in my room, giving different signs. And I mean, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, we have
No, but those things that you both are talking about, whether it's meal prep or practicing signals or whatever, is that something you just do like on Mondays? Do you do it once a week? Do you do it when you feel like it? How do you do that?
I have to do it every day, just kind of keep in the back of my mind, like, you don't want to get in that place. Like, failure is like my greatest fear. I'd say for sure. They could probably say that for them too, but failure is my greatest fear. I think it should be everybody's that's successful. I don't want to see myself fail. I know people around me don't want to see myself fail, and you for sure don't want to see yourself fail. So I think especially when you have a family or kids, they want to look up to you as an example. They want to see your success so they can take that into their lives when they grow up. So I say that's probably my biggest fear is failure. So that just kind of drives me every day just to be successful.
So one of the things that I wrote down here was that everything will not be perfect overnight. And that's something that I'm telling myself right now. I'm sure it's something that you all tell yourselves, but as realtors, for whatever reason, well, I guess I'm with you guys too. You see other people have success. You know, you see other people, whether it's a win that they have personally in a game or just overall being recruited or moving up to another level, and you see someone else have that success that may not even be as talented as you, right? It's the same way with realtors. We see it regularly, and lenders, guys, I'm sure you all see it too. People that you know are not as good as you, right? Like maybe they're not as good at communicating. They aren't as good at customer service. They aren't as honest. They don't operate with as high level of integrity. Yet you see them get successes, and it's frustrating. And it almost conditions your brain to think, well, then I should get that success too. Regardless of what you've put in, regardless of what work you've done, regardless of how accountable you've held yourself, you see someone else get that bite of success, and then all of a sudden you think you should too. Do any of you guys struggle with that? Sometimes I see a couple heads nodding. It's hard, you know, it's really hard because we compare. I say it all the time, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, yet it's human nature to do that, you know? So that being said, whenever I said that, when I said everything will not be perfect overnight, I saw all 3 of you shake your heads. Because I was about to say, do any of you struggle with this? And all of you shook your heads. What do you do to tell yourself, to keep yourself going? What is it that you, how do you motivate? How do you self-motivate?
I mean,
I should have got him a microphone, I'm sorry.
You have to know what you want.
You said you have to know what you want.
Like for me, you know, I know what I want. I know what I'm trying to get to. You gotta have a vision.
So he says you have to have a vision for yourself. So I know ALC members and a lot of other people probably in that room, we've made vision boards. You know, we have vision boards. I had an agent, Deborah Fox, texted me and said, I'm not going to be able to make it to the Zoom meeting today. I'm taking my grandkids on a cruise. It was on my vision board last year. And I mean, literally, so you all, if you have a minute, send a quick text out to Deborah and be like, congrats on hitting that vision board. Because, I mean, you need to be able to visualize things. How do you hold, oh wait, before I move on, you two.
So just kind of thinking like, you know, you're at some point in your career or you're at some level right now, but you want to look ahead and be like, where can I get to? It's not like, for me it was, you know, how good can I be? You know, I struggled a lot throughout high school. I just told myself, you know, maybe there's so much left to take. I'm not even touching my potential. So maybe if I just work harder and harder and harder, then I'll finally get there. But I just never wanted to end my career knowing that there was something left. So I just worked as hard as I could, and then I walked onto my college team, and now they're giving me the opportunity to finally begin to reach my potential, which excites me every day. So even if I take one step back one day, that just means tomorrow I have to take 2 steps forward. So it's just it's a long process, but I know it's gonna be good in the end.
I'm not even going to ask you why you don't think it should happen overnight, because I think you kind of do.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you anyway.
Well, it's like I guess my vision is just to get back home and just be able to play. But also, because that kind of motivates me every day as well. And I think I'm going to harp in with Christian and share a little bit with him. But this year, honestly. I mean, when Player of the Year batted 407, I'm gonna brag on him. He doesn't like it, but 407. I mean, Player of the Year in his conference, and another dude got drafted over him that had his stats were not even comparable to his. And I think ever since then, that's motivated him because ever since then he's been hitting the what out of the ball. So I mean, I don't know, but when you say ever since then, yeah, there's a different Christian on the field. So I think that's a good example of being motivated. He did every day. Oh, this is BS. This is bullcrap. Like I should have got that. He never said a single thing like that. He just let his actions show what he wanted to do. This is Michael Leosa, also from Hawaii Pacific University. Hello. Tell me a little about yourself. Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Well,
Micah runs on island time.
Well, my name is Michael. I'm from the island of Kauai. Born and raised there. I go to college on the island right next to it on Oahu at Hawaii Pacific University. And
What position you play?
I play third base or infield, anywhere in the infield.
So utility guy, strong hitter. We were here a couple of weeks ago and I got to spend some time with these guys. And it's just so funny to I kind of profile personalities for a living. And it was so funny to sit down and have dinner with these guys and like be able to just pinpoint who was who, and I see so many, we have agents in our office, Richie, that remind me so much of you. You have more heart and you have more love for this game and you want so much for everybody around you to love it as much as you do, right? And it's frustrating when they don't. So we have some agents in here who have teams, and even some of the loan officers, they work as a team. So there are people that work with them alongside of them to help them get a house to closing, right? And it's difficult when you work beside people. Can I hear an amen that maybe aren't as passionate as you are? Anybody in that office there feel that way sometimes? So we have, you can't really see him. He's just behind Kirsten, but that's Steve Chandler's. Steve used to work with the So Steve, would you mind answering a little bit of that question for us of what you do for guys? Because I'm sure at that level.
And I'm going to pause this just for a second because there's a couple of things on here that I wanted to ask you all and get your thoughts around. So, and how funny is it, the correlation between baseball and real estate? Right? The exact same things that we struggle with on a regular basis are the same things that these guys are struggling with. It's just in a different kind of area. It was just funny that we had gone to dinner and I talked to them and I thought, this is perfect. And we're going to do this interview, whether you all like it or not. And they're all kind of like, okay. And they shut up and did it. And so one of the things that I loved is whenever I was asking Devin, so that one's mine. So when I was asking him, what you had to do that, to get those signs down. And I don't know how many of you all are baseball people, but he's a catcher. And so to move into a league or onto a team, it wasn't here. When he transferred up to Iowa, he transferred there as a catcher. And generally what happens is if you transfer teams, especially mid-season, or in his case, it was, in between semesters, they will put you in a different position. So, and he was a utility player. So he was like the city teams that all get nominated. He was voted best utility player in the conference in high school. So he could have played first, third, he pitched, he caught. I mean, he could do pretty much anything. And they kept him at catcher. And that's a lot of pressure because it's a whole different set of signals and the orders, everything is different. So it's like you have to entirely learn something brand new in a very short period of time. Anybody else trying to learn something brand new right now in a very short period of time? Yeah. And so when I asked him, how do you make that happen? What did he say? Every day. I said, you don't just try it once a week or every now and then or when you can fit in some time. He's like, every day. And he said, I keep it in the back of my mind every day. And so when I was watching this and I realized when we were doing the whole technology thing in my old region, and people were complaining, and a lot of the leadership wasn't getting on board. And they would ask me all the time, like, how do you know this? How do you even, I mean, I just am lost, blah, 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 right, whatever. They aren't lost. They just weren't taking time every day to listen to it or watch it. You know, and it's not a lot of time. I'm talking 5-10 minutes in a day. You can learn so much, right? Like, you can just, there's a lot you can learn. So there was that. And then the other thing that he said was, failure is my greatest fear. And then we said, everything will not be perfect overnight. Who struggles with any of that? So how do you get past that? What are some things? Is it an affirmation? Is it my partner and I in Bold right now, we just are making it a lot of fun. And so we do our affirmations every day, and we share quotes with each other. And sometimes we're like, well, this is an oxymoron, or this is a blah, blah. We're never going to show these things to our Bold coach. And we have a great time getting our homework done. So what do? What are some of those things that you do to overcome that? When you're like, okay, I know this isn't going to happen overnight, and my house payment is due at the beginning of the month. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it is when you have an office like this, you can have an accountability partner.
An accountability partner. Yeah, for sure. What else? When you start to compare yourself to the success of others, because this was something we were struggling with in our market center a lot. Agents that were very talented that I knew should be selling more houses than they were selling, weren't selling them. And you could see people that have part-timers, you know, they're running in and out, they've got 2 other jobs, and their kids are traveling, and they had 8 pending. And it was just, people were just like, what is going on? There was a lot of this going on at the time. That was why we did this specific session. And how do you not compare yourself to other people? What keeps you, when you have that fear in the back of your head of, oh my gosh, I'm not selling enough, or it's not happening fast enough, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I don't have enough hours in a day. What do you do to get past that so that you don't just lay in bed under the covers? I mean, right? Yeah.
Like, I know I got away from doing the basics that made me successful. And so I just remind myself, you've done this before, and you've got to get back to the basics.
Okay. Imagine us overcomplicating things. What else? Thank you for that.
Implement a plan.
Okay. So that was one of the things that he said was, how do you self-motivate? And one of them said, you have to know what you want, and you have to have a vision. And so a lot of that I think that we struggle with, and I love Business Planning Clinic, and I feel like sometimes we still walk away from that not really sure. You know, not exactly sure of what it is that we want. So you have to have a plan. And if you don't know what it is that you want, you can't create a plan around it, right? So it's like, what is that plan? And I think, I don't know, so correct me if I'm wrong, I just think that we don't want to be presumptive, and we don't want to just assume that, oh, well, I mean, I want to make $500,000, and I'm going to make $500,000. And so we're kind of taught that, oh, nobody needs that much money. You know, and so we tend to take our foot off the gas a little bit, or we allow that goal or that number to be flexible. And then that makes it a little more difficult when you don't have, do I sound crazy? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think what you're saying is, if you give yourself permission to fail, it makes it a lot easier to fail the next time and the next time.
Yeah.
You can't give yourself that permission.
For sure. And with permission to fail comes, I don't need that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, I don't need that much. I can get by on X. So it's okay.
Right.
That's exactly
And
what
we
I'm
set our
thinking.
own goals.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with that.
Well, and you know, you say that until, you know, we all say that until someone in your family, your child, your spouse, whatever, has a terrible disease, you know, and the doctor comes to you and says, well, it's going to cost X for me to operate and cure them. And if you write a check today, we can cure them. That's drastic, and it's a very real scenario of something that could happen. So I think that we forget about money being good for the good it can do, and we focus more on what we need or what we think our financial thermostat is. And so that's the thing that we have to get away with. I love it with these guys because it's not an option for them, right? They aren't doing this for the money. If he came in and didn't perform how he's supposed to perform, he's out. And baseball is not like real estate. You don't go off for a couple of years and get your act together and regroup and come back. You're out. You're out. So this thing that you've worked for, in his case, 15 years of his life, if you don't keep pressing forward, you're done. And so we coach a lot. I coach him more than any client, more than any agent. We coach a lot because he's number one, he's a baseball player, so he's a head case. And number two, he's my kid, so he's a head case. And he's an overachiever, so he's a head case, right? So you have all these things going against you, and we have the option that one day when we wake up and we're not feeling it, there's a little too much going on in our lives that day, or we've had a stressful week, and that weekend, you know what? I'm not doing an open house this weekend. I'm not talking to people this weekend. I just need to decompress. And I'm going to get back at it Monday, or I'm going to get back at it next week. That is not an option. It's not an option. You never get to decompress. So there's days when I feel that way, and then I think, oh, well, I could be him. So I'm going to shut up and keep pressing forward. And so then he said, I loved it when Richie said, how good can I be? How much more gas is in my tank? How he said it. How good can I be? And so for me, it's never about how good I can be. It's how good I can be for the people in my world. And so I think that's the other thing. And when we give ourselves permission to fail, it's, well, I'm not really financially motivated. I don't have to have $1 million to be happy. That doesn't motivate me, right? Being with my family and yada, yada, right? Those are the things that motivate me. And so when you think about how money funds those things, having money gives you the opportunity to be able to spend time with your family. Having money or having the resources, right, that gives you the ability to make choices differently than what you would normally make. And then he said, it's a long process, but it will be worth it in the end. He said, but not me. He said, it's a long process, but it will be worth it in the end. What do you think he meant by that?
He'll feel accomplished because he stuck to his goals, and no matter what the outcome is, he feels as if he accomplished whatever he's looking for.
Oh, for sure. And it's just so funny because the way these two think is very different, right? For this one, if he doesn't do well in college, he doesn't have the opportunity. Like, he loves the game, right? He wouldn't do what he does if he didn't love it, just completely eaten up with it. And he doesn't have that optimistic of a view on it as Richie does. Right? Richie would be exactly what you just said. I gave it my all. It was worth it. I gave it my all. This one here would be like, well, I gave it my all and I still sucked and we failed. And that's right. And that's how some of us are. And that's okay. It's just this, it really struck me when they were talking about their plan and what we have to have and how we have to stick to it. And just the options that we have as adults and as business owners that they don't have. And so think about the motivation piece for just a little bit, and I'm going to fast forward through a little of this.
They really did feel like
I'm
that
so
perfection
loud.
should come overnight, or that success should come overnight. What did you do to talk to people and coach?
There are some people that are small when they have strength to wait.
He's talking more about baseball stuff.
I feel like with realtors, like just hearing you say that, I know like with my realtor hat on, it's such an emotional roller coaster. You go through so many, just in one day, so many emotions that come out of the highs of writing a contract or the highs of getting it accepted to the lows of people freaking out and wanting to walk away, or inspections, or a contrary realtor on the other side, or, psychotic sellers, whatever. There's lots of things that we can do. And it makes it very difficult to stay, like we talked about a few weeks ago, emotionally neutral. And I feel like with ball players, remaining emotionally neutral is imperative to you. Now I can say this because my kid is as big a head case as I am. And so when we say be successful with the monotony or get comfortable with the monotony of success, that is one of my biggest challenges, is remaining emotionally neutral. Because for me, like when I look in this room and I look at Naomi and I look at Chris and I look at Kirsten, and I see all these faces and I know your stories and I know why you're there, it is very emotional for me. It matters to me. I take it very personally how you succeed. When I look at Tyler, I don't necessarily think, I know Tyler doesn't need a lot. He's not a big, I've got to make $10 million worth of sales this year. But I know that the happiness of your wife and daughter mean everything to you. And the comfort of your wife and daughter means everything to you. So it's very difficult to not interject your emotions into this business when there are so many emotionally tied things at stake. So we're just at a different point in our lives. Like Naomi, you're probably in that room, one of the closest ones in age to these guys here. We're just all at a very different place in our life, right? So
real quick, what were your all's thoughts on that? Just that last little.
With ball players, remaining emotionally neutral.
I'm not going to be able to find it exactly. When I said
how you succeed. When I look at Tyler, I don't necessarily.
I was talking about what's tied to your success. Do you all think of that when you're creating your plans, or when you wake up on we wake up today and don't feel like doing what we need to do, right? Do you tie in who else is relying on you or the happiness of other, like how do you all do that?
I mean, at times, but I don't think I always do. Maybe if I did, I would push myself further.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think we're all that way. She said, I don't think I do. Maybe if I did, I would push myself further. What, anybody else?
Sometimes I feel like
Well, because, when we have other income sources, or you don't necessarily rely on this to live, it makes it really difficult to push and be really super serious about it. And so I think that looking at it a little bit differently and seeing the potential that's here and what you can actually do versus what we're really doing and what else we're choosing to spend our time on. Which book is it? Or anyway, when you say yes to something, you need to be mindful of what you're saying no to. Mm-hmm. And so that was something that I used to say yes to everything. I had a really difficult time with saying no. Until I realized, when I say yes, then that means I'm going to miss my daughter or my son's game. Or when I say yes, then that means I'm not going to. So when I was able to tie it to something, then I was able to start saying no, quick and easy. It was not even an issue, right? It wasn't even a letting go of people on my team. I struggled with that. The first team that I built and had, they were not great. I love them. I don't know that they weren't. I shouldn't say they weren't great. I wasn't a great leader. I didn't know what I was doing in building the team. I didn't know how to hold them accountable. I didn't know how to set the expectations right. I didn't know how, right? This was 7 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing. And the team it fell apart. And I continued to let people, let's figure it out. Oh, this will work. Let's figure it out because I really like you. And I really like you. And this can work if we just try harder. And that wasn't the case at all. I had done it all wrong. Until I realized the money that was being left on the table and the money that I wasn't able to give to my family because I wasn't able to make the decision that I needed to make here. And then now that I have that crystal clear, boom. Very easy. I mean, it sounds terrible, but my last admin, she just wasn't a great fit. She KPA'd beautifully, took her through the whole process, all that was great. And then she gets onto the team, and her actions were very different. What was showing up regularly was very different than the person I had interviewed. And so when I finally realized that, and I was like, you know what, I gave her another chance. By X date, we're going to do this, right? And then that didn't happen again. And so she was supposed to come in that day at 1 o'clock, and at 12, I sat down, I figured out what I owed her, I wrote her a paycheck, I put it in an envelope. She came in, I said, you know what, based on our conversation we had 2 weeks ago, nothing has changed. It's obvious to me that you aren't happy here. And if you aren't happy here, you aren't going to be productive. And if you aren't going to be productive, I'm not going to be happy. So here's your check for the last 2 weeks. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Best of luck to you. And I went and I opened the door. And the girls that were on my team were across the hall in our office. And they all come running over and they were like, did you just fire so-and-so? And I said, yeah. And they're like, she was in here for like 30 seconds. Because, in the past, I would have drugged that out and I would have thought about it for a month and I blah, blah, blah. No, that was literally interfering with the success of my family. There's nothing to discuss. Am I going to change her? Am I going to change my standards? No. So when you can tie those decisions or tie your actions to something that matters, to something that's going to be affected based on those actions, you go at it very differently. Very differently. Any thoughts on that? Yeah.
I guess what I can say for me personally, and what we're talking about is so important, and that's something that I struggle with. When I was a single parent and my daughter depended on me and I wanted to get her through college, and working a couple of jobs, it was a no-brainer. Just do it. I didn't even think about it. This is what I have to do. Now I'm at a point in my life, it's very different. Kids are grown, kids are through college, and that my why is definitely what I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm here, I want to, but I need something to,
The motivation's a little different.
I guess what I'm trying to say is the different stages of my life.
Yeah.
Night and day.
Oh yeah.
Just night and day.
And you aren't held to the fire right now, right?
Right. Exactly.
Everybody's gonna eat if you don't show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, the thing to think of there is what happens. What happens if they lose their jobs? What happens, and not that by any means, I'm not wanting to put that on anybody. That's not your responsibility. However, having the freedom to be able to help with those types of things is a whole nother ballgame. Or what if you could help them fund investments? What if you could help them purchase a rental property every year so that when their kids graduate from high school, what if? Think of all of the what ifs. And so if you can tie that to something, a little more critical, I guess, so maybe to get that fire going under us, whatever it is we have to do. Yes, Julie.
So when you hired her, you followed your same systems, right? But then you broke your system when you realized she wasn't a good fit. What did you find on when you take on a new system, that balance of doing what you did, but now your newfound vision of breaking it and implement it for success going forward?
With that particular person, I did the career visioning process seamlessly. I mean, beautifully. And then I did not do the 30, 60, 90 process beautifully and seamlessly.
Okay.
So when the next person came on, they have a 30, 60, 90. You're hired. This is the expectation at 30 days. And I say to them, Julian, this is our 30, 60, 90 plan. And these are the expectations over the next 30 days, which I had written out. They give you a template. You can make it however you want to make it. And so what we do is, if at 30 days, all of these expectations have been met, and you and I are both in alignment on moving forward, then we will proceed on to the next 60 days. If after this 30-day mark, you and I don't feel like it's jiving, or these things haven't been accomplished and these expectations haven't been met, then we'll just agree to disagree and we'll part ways. I say that the day I hire them. I just need you to know in 30 days, you don't give me kisses or whatever, I'm breaking up with you. Whatever, right? You've got to set that expectation for whatever it looks like. So that's the piece that I learned. Oh, oh, hiring the right person isn't everything. It's also the accountability piece. And so by putting that in place, we both had something on our calendar. We knew where that 30-day mark was, and we were both crystal clear on what the expectations were. Because 90% of that was me. In that, if I said, hey, Raina, if you could write on a piece of paper A through Z, and then give that to me tomorrow, it's never even a thought in my wheelhouse that she won't do that. Like if you ask me to do that, okay, right? You're probably going to get it before tomorrow. So, because that's how I operate. That's not how everyone operates. So that was a big eye opener for me, is the 30, 60, 90 is critical.
Really think, I know Tyler doesn't.
Wanted to get,
You know, my team needs me out there, so I'm gonna do
oh,
everything I
on
can to
Facebook
help
it's
them out.
not?
And,
Should I
you know,
tell
if
her
I don't
why?
play, then I'll just encourage everybody on. And if I do play, then I'll give it all I can, because, you know, that's all I can do. I can't control
Better?
if I actually play or not, but I can give everything I have. And knowing that I gave everything I could, I'm happy enough with that. So.
Good. How about you, Devin?
For instance, a good example of me and all those guys figuring out. Beginning of the season, just couldn't get out, just squaring everything out. But then I think past 12 at bats, I'm like 3 for 12, something like that. Just not finding the hole right now. That's just baseball. But just what keeps me going is just wanting to win. Even though I may not be helping my team too much at the plate right now, I can help them behind the plate defensively, and I've been focusing on that. I'd say more like if I'm not doing too well in a game, if I'm like 0 for 2, 0 for 3, then I'm going to try and make some stuff happen behind the plate just to help get that extra run. For instance, what was it, two games ago, I think I was like 0 for 2, 0 for 3, and it was a tight ball game. We had an iffy pitcher on the mound who was struggling a little bit, and that put on a big play with our third baseman, got that last out just to get out of the inning. Just like stuff like that, just helping your team out in different ways. Usually, he's our leadoff guy. He's probably our 2. He switches in between 2 and 5 hole, and then I'm 3 hole, and Christian's 4 hole. So you got all of our. This team is, the core guys are right here. So if I'm not helping them out at the plate, I gotta try and help out, find different ways to help them out. It's like whether it's like telling them, oh, this guy is tipping his pitches, or
No, this stuff that he's about to say matters. What do you get, because he gets into that, what did you get from that, what he just said?
Helping out in other ways that we can. I think.
So if it's you and we're talking about real estate, what do we focus on? Focus on what we can. What's the word there? Yes. We focus on the things we can control. Instead of focusing on the things that we can't control or that we're struggling with, we focus on the things we can control. Right? So, we're this Facebook thing. So we've decided that we're going to master this Facebook ad. We're going to get it down. So we sit down with a plan, right? What can we control? So we sit down and we're going over literally writing down all of the opportunities we have for posts. And then it's creating the content for the posts. And then it's creating the timing of the posts. And it's what we can control. Instead of saying one day, sometime, maybe, I'm going to write what we can control. There are so many pieces right now in command that aren't working that we can't control. We just have to focus on what we can. Who does that?
I would say I do, but I also really control the people around me. So if you're not good for me or not rooting, you're out.
Me too. And it's terrible. Like, I feel really bad about it sometimes. And it's just it's like a natural selection process. I'm an absorber. So if you're really negative and you're like one of these, just, I don't know, I can't. I don't have the capacity to carry that. And I have a hard time shaking it. I'm one of those people, I can't even watch certain movies or, read certain books because it gets in my head. And I focus on that. Like, I don't know, but I do. And so that's a huge piece of who's around you. And so the people that understand what you're doing, like I was on a call this morning with my old regional director, And she called me and she said, oh, I wasn't sure if you'd even take my call. Because she called at like 7:30 in the morning. And so she knows my routine and knows, you know, like if I'd called Giovanni at 8 o'clock, you're not going to take my call. You better not take my call, you know, because I know what his pattern is. I know his routine. And so that's part of that is who's in your circle and who understands what you have going on, right? So I think that's huge. Like even Mike, this is awesome that you're here today. First of all, I should have said that in the very beginning. Thank you. But it's also a way to like be in tune with the people around you, you know, what they're focusing on, what they need. And then, you know, as an allied resource, like how can you support them in that? So I think that that's important. That's a huge piece of who you have around you. Anybody else? So focusing on what you can control instead of getting down, which I've done before. If I'm not, especially when that's a lot of pressure, you know, when you're in that top 4 batting order and you're not hitting. I mean, this kid came out of high school at like 448. So to go off and not be able to hit all of a sudden, he's like, what? What do you mean I can't hit? Just not hitting. That could really get you down and throw everything else off. And I was so proud of him that he was focusing on what he could control and contributing in some way instead of just getting down in the dumps and polar opposite, right? There is, see if I can get to it.
See, you stay positive, like I said.
Okay, here we go. I thought it was later and it's here.
Player, he's coming in. Like there's different ways of helping your team win. I think that's what helps me.
So how about you, Micah? How do you hold yourself accountable?
Well, in the beginning of the season, I struggled to, like Doug said, it's a part of baseball. You know your abilities, you know what you can do. It's just very frustrating. So the only way to get out of that, you know, slump is if you keep practicing your technique, your mental side of baseball, and baseball is so mental. It's like 90% mental, and you can't get in your own head. You know, you just got to stay positive and keep battling through that slump. And you know, the only way to get out of it is if you keep practicing, you stay positive, like I said. And so the way I hold myself accountable is that, you know, I wake up the next morning if I had a bad day, and you know, hit the gym, go hit balls, and just keep doing rep after rep. That's the only way you can get better, to keep doing what you do.
The monotony of success, right? Do you guys have any questions so far? Anybody seeing a correlation between what they do and what you do? Have families to support, or you know, kids to set an example for, or you know, you're not going to eat if I don't play ball well. You know, they don't have any of those things. It's how you stay internally motivated. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this today is because we're in a shift. You know, the market is shifting. You know, we put a house on the market that was under 150 a couple months ago, and it went into multiple offers like boom, boom, boom. And then we just put a house on the market under 150, and we've had 2 showings in 3 days. Anybody else feeling it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's slowing down, right? And so you're thinking, what do I have in the pipeline? What do I have coming down the road? And I'm telling you guys, if you aren't focusing on the activities and you aren't being strategic with those activities and consistent with those activities, if you're feeling it now, you're really going to feel it in December and January. So I want to figure out what we can do and how we can help to give you some ideas on how to kind of get ahead of that, right? To not fall into that. So for instance, when I asked them how you hold yourself accountable, so Christian, if I put you in the weight room and you were just by yourself lifting weights, you may have a goal, or you may have, you know, sets or reps or whatever your routine is you're going to do. But if I put these 3 guys in front of you to watch you lift weights, do you think you would perform at a higher level? No, because you give it your all the time, right?
It's like so serious all the time.
Yeah. Realtors aren't all that disciplined. So we're I'm not that disciplined.
But do you guys feel like you pump a little harder when somebody's watching you? No,
He said, should I say yes?
I didn't know if that was like a setup.
Yeah, no.
But no, I do the same everywhere I'm at, because that's just my competitive nature. You all know my mom, I'm great. That doesn't fall apart from the tree. But like for instance, yesterday, I've been staying at the hotel with my mom and my grandma over here, and I could say, oh, my family's here visiting. I can take it to my birthday. I can still take these couple days off. Like I still got up 8 in the morning. While they were asleep, went to the gym, got my stuff done that I usually just sleep in the summer. We'll sleep in until like 11 o'clock, eat breakfast, and then go hit the gym and go hit the cages. But I had to do that earlier in the morning, and sometimes you're gonna have to alter your schedule to still get to your goal, whatever you want to do. Because I still love them and all, but I still gotta take care of my stuff. But I'm gonna kind of go out of my way a little bit because they're here for me. So that's what I just had to do these past couple of days. And it's been great having them up here.
All right, what'd you learn there? He was 18. No, he was 19. He was turning 19 that week we were there. What did you learn there?
Adjusting time blocking. His usual schedule is, do that stuff at 11. But something else was in the way, so he just tweaked that and still got in what he had to get in.
And I love how he said he got up early, went to the gym while we were all still in bed, got his thing done, and was back in the room. And I had gotten up and gone and gotten like donuts or something, for his birthday. And he came back and he's like, well, I can have one. And that was it. Right? But he still got all of that done. What do we do? What do we do when we have company come in or something happens in life, Joan?
Their level of discipline is just freakish. The fact that none of them would work out any differently if somebody was watching them.
Oh yeah.
I think all of us would perform differently if somebody was watching them.
Hands down. I was dying. It was so funny when they said it because all 4 of them were like, no. They're just like, because there's so much at stake. It's such a competitive game. And I can remember when Devin was younger, he had, there were other guys that, developed faster. Anybody a baseball parent or baseball, whatever? Soccer, yeah. And so there's always kids that, develop faster or they shoot out ahead, and they're like the stars of the team. And that was never him when he was younger. And he started developing, that 14, 15, 16-year-old year as he's getting into high school. And we could tell, we could tell he had talent from a young age. And I can remember when he started hitting them over. And it was always such a big deal. It was a small private school. People just made a huge deal out of it. And I can remember the kids' parents, the ones that were like the superstars who was younger. These were people that were not in our circle. And they just thought their kid was the best thing ever. Those of you who have children, you have friends, they have friends whose parents just, their kid can do no wrong. They're amazing and they're wonderful. Blah, blah. And so Devin would hear this, like all these years, these parents talk about how great their kids were. And so when he started hitting them out, we would get in the car, and when he was still riding with us, sometimes we would have these talks, either walking to the car if he was driving, depending. And literally one of the first things I would say to him was, that was amazing. I'm so proud of you. Just remember, you have to keep working because there will always be someone better than you. Maybe not in this park and maybe not in this town or in this conference. There will always be someone better than you. So you can tell they live on the daily basis. They live on the concept of someone is always standing there waiting to take my spot. So for them, it's not an option to not be disciplined because there's always someone waiting to take their spot. Is there always someone waiting to take our spot? Yes! Why don't we see it like that? And it was not until I did this with them did I think, oh, I don't know if I thought I owned the people in my database. I'm not sure where my head was with that. And this was so eye-opening to me that they don't even, it's a very different thing that they have at stake. I don't want to demean what they're doing because it's not like keeping people alive, but you know what I'm saying? It's different. That was very, very eye-opening to me. Any other comments or thoughts on that?
Thank you. But I mean, that's what realtors deal with. You know, we deal with that on a regular basis. In the upper left-hand quadrant is an L.
Okay, we're going to pass this because we'll do this activity all together at another time. Oh, I'm sorry. Our internet. Come on.
Models. So systems and models are imperative for a market center. We have honed down on them.
Pass those.
Lead generation. Thank you so much. Okay.
There's one more piece, and if I can find it, we'll do it. If not, I'll come back another time.
And after he throws forward, then he throws them all the rest of his mouth. Cat, when he comes in, he gets his gloves on, you know, sets the tee up like outside corner, around the various plates. So does Micah. And I come in, I have my weighted bat, my trained bat, come in, do no backside, first 2 rounds, and then I'll work now I'm starting to work on getting the ball more out in front now. So I think we all have, and then we'll go.
3% would be for that listing. And put it up on my rearview mirror. Not at the
Anyway.
So it doesn't matter what your system is, if it's eating individual Mike and Ike's, or if it's a Post-it note, or whatever it is, you have to have it. You have to have some kind of a system that you go through. Otherwise, you wake up every day going, damn, what should I do today? I wonder what I should throw at the wall to see if it sticks today. You need a system. And especially now when we talk about that shifting market, you really need it, So that bottom left hand, we'll talk about that last. The bottom right hand one is accountability.
Okay, so real quick, what is your system? What is your, I'll pick on somebody that I know has one. What's your system when you wake up every day, Giovanni?
When I wake up every morning, I have coffee time, so a cup of coffee, feed the dog. That's the first 30 minutes, and get dressed to work out. And the next 90 minutes is my one thing. Then after that, take a shower, get ready for the day. That's the next 30 minutes. Next 30 minutes is team meeting. Thirty minutes after that is script practice and role play. And now that I'm in bold, the next 15 minutes is different script practice and role play. And that's all before I answer a phone call or read an email.
And then what time is it when we get to here?
Approximately 9:30.
Okay. Now I was able to pick on him just because I know that. And so that is a system. That's not saying that has to be your system. It's just a system. So if you have that already in place and you know what you have to do, whether it's I've got to go to the gym and I got to work out and I got to lift X amount, whatever, so I can squat for 6 hours, whatever, right? You know what it is that you have to do. So one of the things that I had said to Devin was, well, if you erase it, you have to replace it. And he's like, I don't have time to replace it. So erasing isn't an option for him. So it's just having a system, right? And knowing every day, at least having some things. Now, for me, I can remember this. Like, this is beautiful because you don't have any little children that are going to vomit on you. Or, like this, I can remember when my kids were little that I really avoided this at a very high level because I knew it was pointless to put it in place because it was just gonna get blown all to pieces anyway. That was at least my thought, right? It's not. You can still have a system. You can still very much have somewhat of a plan in place. Who else has something every day, no matter what, it happens? Yes.
I've been waking up and then do coffee and reading, and then afterwards I'll let the dogs out for a walk, and then actually do emails and text, and then go from there.
Good. It's a system, right? And you have to have something in writing that you're going to do, right? We did in Bold, we're doing a 66-day challenge. And so we had to have something, some activity that we're going to do every day for 66 days, no matter what. And so I couldn't write down lead gen. So it's like, I'm not going to do that 7 hours. I mean, I could, but okay, I'm not going to do that. And I went with prayer. Everybody had different people put different things, right? I thought, okay, that's something I know I can do every day for 66 days because it's just creating the habit. I was talking to Sarah this morning, and she said, ever since Business Planning Clinic, we've decided to start what? Making. She's like, I have no idea. You said we decided to every day in the morning now, you all do what at your house? You make your bed.
Oh, that's right. The millionaire mindset. That's right. Every day, the millionaire mindset.
She's like, ever since Business Planning Clinic, now we make our bed, right? That's become a new part of her system.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter what it is. So I'm just going to urge you this week to have a system. Create something that is going to help you be a better person, be a better realtor, do a better job at something, right? So I'm just going to do this very quickly and make sure I have all of the faces. Thank you for bending over, Scott, to try to act like you're not here. And that way, I just needed a quick record of who was here. And so some kind of a system. I don't care what it is, right? You can write down, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to pray, I'm going to take a shower, I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to try really hard the rest of the day to do something productive, right? I don't care what you write down, just some kind of a system. And the reason that I wanted to know exactly who was here is I'm not letting you all off the hook on this one. So this isn't going to be where I come in next week and go, oh, thanks for the 4 of you that sent that to me. I really appreciate it. This is your livelihood. So I don't care what it is, and create a winnable game. Don't come up with some crazy, I'm going to do this every day. Like, don't do that if you're not going to do it. Just come up with hey, this is what I'm going to work on. I'm not lead generating how I should. So you know what? I'm going to 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day, I'm going to figure out something. If I'm messaging people on Facebook, if I'm texting them, whatever, right? If you're scared to death to pick up the phone or knock on a door or whatever, that's fine. Just something. Make it winnable. Because if we put this system in place and you all do something crazy, that's not going to work. So let's stop thinking of what this idea of perfection or whatever it is that it's supposed to be. Let's stop making it something that it's not. What are your all's thoughts on any of this? Any input, ahas from today? Gotta have at least 3 to open the doors.
I really like this system idea because I'm all over the place in the morning. I mean, I typically do a lot of the same things daily, but then there's a lot of days where I wake up and I'm like just out of it. I have no idea what's going on. And those are the days that I typically fail on my goals for the day.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm excited about the system.
Good. We have one person excited about the system. That's good. What else?
I think success varies to everyone differently. Just like he said 3 for 12, that's 25%, but then you said 448 out of college. Like, that's a great batting average, but like if we said we're 48% on conversion, that's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just really seeing what are our accomplishments, and even though it's going to look different, some people may think we're doing bad. It really doesn't matter because we know our extent and what our goals are trying to be met and hit.
I mean, hands down, that goes back to the don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20, because everyone's in a very different place, and we all know realtors that have been in this business for 20 years that are terrible. You know, I mean, it is what it is. And so, yeah, he's in a game. He plays a game where, you know, you win 30% of the time and you get paid. Like you're a pro, you know, and here that would be terrible. So yeah, very good point. Very good point. We all measure success differently and it looks different to all of us. So, you know, if you're just thinking, okay, maybe 2 million is my mark for this year. 2 million isn't bad, especially if you're doing something else and you have another job or you're doing something different, right? It's totally up to you. What else? One more.
There's always someone waiting to take your spot.
There's always somebody waiting to take your spot, whether you think they are or not. You might think those people at church love you. People at church can be the worst.
So going back to the system, when this was first put in place for me, this was very, very, very difficult. And now it's at a point where it's almost second nature for me. And it becomes easy. This is what happens every single day. And if it doesn't happen, then it feels like I left the house without my cell phone.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because it is such a part of what your day looks like. Yeah, that's great. And thank you for sharing that, by the way. You might have been like somebody's business on my shower. Anybody else? So what's the homework assignment for this week?
Create a system.
Create a system.
Winnable.
A winnable system. Mike Mazik. That's your assignment too, by the way. You're in the room, you're stuck like Chuck.
Yes.
Anybody else? Anybody else think they are exempt? I just want to make sure everyone knows. Who is, you can email it to me, you can text it to me, I don't care. Who in this room is responsible for creating a winnable system this week and getting it to me before Monday? Everyone in this room should have their hand up right now. There we go. Oh, where are you, John? What's up? There we go. Perfect. Good. Excellent. Let's make it a great week. Let's go to the top. Woo! Have a good one. Thank you for hooking us up.
Yeah. So we talked about accountability a little bit. What do you guys do?
Based on our implement, follow, with